But Simone Biles speaks about her struggles from a position of epic achievement and success. And I just want to know whether or not you find that helpful. I do. And I think you probably do. But if you don't, I'd love to know why. And we can have a frank exchange of views. I don't think there's much to be served by having a scrap about it. But I just can't think of anything more helpful to people who are struggling. And again, I find the language hard to get right every time. It's not struggling with their mental health necessarily, just people who are a little bit vulnerable. And in the context of sport, I just mentioned two names. Younger listeners may need a little bit of help from older listeners on this. But if I mention two names, for my money, probably the greatest British footballers of the 20th century. All right, maybe George Best wasn't British, but the greatest English-speaking... Can we go for English-speaking footballers of the 20th century? I would say Gazza and George Best, right? One died early, crippled by alcoholism, and the other remains enthralled to some pretty dark demons, okay? Now, the British media, partly because their talent was so immense, but also because their private lives were so dysfunctional, lionised them on a Monday, crucified them on a Tuesday, praised them on a Wednesday, buried them on a Thursday. That's how the tabloid media works. It takes these men, it lifts them up, it treats them like heroes, and then it spits them out when they think that might sell a few more newspapers. And that is obviously a personal perspective, because I'm a student and a survivor of tabloid journalism, and I see it perhaps playing a bigger role in the national pageant than perhaps you do, because you've never worked for one or been caught up in that world. So it's the same people, it seems to me, or at least the same mentality that attacks particularly young women, oddly, for speaking honestly. Naomi Osaka, the tennis player, and now Simone Biles, the gymnast. So what would you rather happened to your sporting heroes and heroines? Would you rather they drank themselves to an early death, or ended up being filmed by drug dealers, humiliating themselves without knowing? Or would you rather they spoke honestly and frankly about their mental health, addressed some of the areas where they need help in the hope of healing, and lived long and fruitful lives, augmented by this newfound ability to help other people? I really could get on my soapbox about this, but I've written a whole book, so there's no need really. I just want to know about the role that it plays. Okay? Thank you, Gary in Hornchurch, who just said that was the worst Craig David cover ever. Built him up on a Monday, spat him out again on a Tuesday. We were making... No, don't even go there. 11:45 is the time. That's the question. And I do think, and I passionately believe this probably is a bridge I'll die on. Talking about mental health helps. It hurts nobody, except temporarily, you would pray, people who have buried their own pain and trauma so deeply that hearing anybody else acknowledge theirs feels like a personal insult. I'll tell you a little bit more about that psychology in a moment, because I suffered from it for approximately 30 years of my life. So if you look at people being vile to Simone Biles or to Naomi Osaka or to Meghan Markle and you think, what the hell is that about? Where the hell does that come from? I can tell you. I can give you absolutely chapter and verse. And at the end of the explanation, you will no longer be remotely mystified or confused as to how that sort of performative callousness can, to the people indulging in it, seem not only natural and fair, but even perhaps necessary. And I will in a minute, but I'll just leave you with one line that I think is really, really, really relevant in these conversations. When I point a finger at you, there are three fingers pointing back at me.
LBC, Nick Ferrari at breakfast. Weekday mornings from 7.
An exclusive interview with the Prime Minister.
If someone refuses a vaccine, are they being selfish?
I would put it the other way around. If you get one, you're doing something massively positive for yourself, for your family.
But if you don't get one, should you possibly be barred from going to a nightclub?
I think it's a very positive thing to do, to get a vaccine.
But should you be barred to going from a nightclub